Welcome to I'll Marry You, a podcast with me, Olivia Coleman, full of tips and tricks from the UK wedding scene, interviews with industry experts, and a whole lot of oversharing. Okay, I'm still here. Oh, there's a siren. It's an ambulance. I'm going into labour. It's called manifesting. I'm not. I'm still here and I'm still pregnant. Another week is gone and I am all alone. Do you know, I'm actually incredibly unhappy within myself. Anyway, I'm still here, I'm still pregnant. If you're watching this episode on YouTube, I'm doing that wanky thing again that I've only done once, but I thought I'd do it again because basically I'm putting my slap on because I've got a wedding today. I'm so excited. It's a Monday. I'm pre-recording. It's a Monday. Who has a wedding on a Monday except a crazy party animal? But I'm excited because it's lovely weather and, you know, what a way to start the week. So I'm doing that wanky thing. I'm putting my makeup on as I'm recording. I don't have time or energy. I'm out of breath already. But so I'm here and I'm gonna try and make myself look pretty. I wonder if this one's gonna be better than the first one I did. It was a few weeks ago now. I hope you're all really well and feeling festive. So when this episode comes out, we're looking at 2 weeks till Christmas. I might have the baby. Oh, I can tell you're all on tender hooks. Aren't we all? Aren't we all? Every time I do school drop-off, I think they're probably expecting me to turn up with a babe. Do you know, I know I've complained about school drop-off to you before, I think. Well, mentally I have. Mentally I have many conversations with my listeners. But I'm going to start make-upping whilst we chat. But this morning I had a real altercation with a mum on the school run. Because she was wrong, okay? And yes, perhaps my patience is a little thin, but, you know, that does not take away the fact that she was driving badly. She was making bad vehicle life choices. Anyway, so I had an altercation with her, and then it annoyed me, and I realised perhaps it's not them. Because I seem to think that every single parent doing the school run is an arsehole. Maybe it's not them, maybe it's me. Do you think? I hope not. It could be, it could well be. And don't get the wrong idea of me. I'm not so bad. I'm not one of those absolute twats that thinks it's their job to teach people how to drive. My dad does that. Do you know what I mean? Those people that get really angry in the car, like that doesn't help anyone. That causes incidents in traffic. Anyway, so that was my morning revelation. Maybe I'm the arsehole, it's me, I'm the problem. Hi. How are you? So on today's episode, we are going to go straight into it and we are going to talk about extras at a wedding. There's a van pulling up. I've got to have the window open because even though it's 7 degrees, you know, I have no way of regulating my own body temperature and I'm so hot. So apologies to producer Drew if you have to play with the sound a lot in this episode because I have to have the window open. Otherwise I'll sweat off all this glorious makeup that I'm about to pile on my fat face. Shall we begin? Also, as a heads up, I've done a slick pony today. That sounds sexual. But I've done a slick ponytail, and it's not because my hair's greasy. I washed it last night. It's just the look I'm going for today's wedding because it's slick. You know, it's clean. It's black tie. But I just wanted to let you know because you know that I like to not wash my hair. And I wanted you to know that I have washed my hair for a wedding because I do have a tiny semblance of pride left in my life. So, on today's episode, we're talking about extras. Now, this is going to be interesting for me because I change my mind a lot on this, you know. And I go from when I've been thinking about this over the last few weeks before recording this episode, I've been thinking, well, is X an extra? Is Y an extra? Well, no, it's an essential, but no, it's an extra. Well, to some people it's an extra, to some people it's an essential. That's the thing, isn't it? You can't really define one from the other because I'm going to put darker foundation on today and just really lather it down the chest because I'm wearing a high neck and I think I look better with a little colour. I'm an influencer now. So I keep flitting between what is an extra and what is an essential. I would like to point out at this point, and this is I apologise in advance because this is a very middle class problem to have, but when I was on my gap year, let that sink in, love me, don't hate me, but when I was on my gap year, I was 18 and I went travelling around the world on my gap year, because I am that twat, on my own, and at various points I was meeting friends and family and I did some teaching in Fiji. I know, I sound like a knob. Anyway, it's the truth, okay, it's my life. I'm quite frantic today, I haven't even had caffeine. Anywho, so, I went travelling on my own, and as a precaution, before I went, there's certain things you have to do, like jabs, STD checks. But one of the things, I was 18, and it was the first time that I had a credit card. And it wasn't mine, obviously, I was 18. I didn't have any money. I was financially incredibly unstable. But my dad gave me what we called at the time an emergency credit card, right? So what we then had to do, I remember this so well, we sat down and it was a credit card that went to his account and it was in my name and it was an emergency credit card for emergencies only. So of course then what we had to do is we had to sit down and define together, so we were on the same page, what is an emergency? Well, an emergency to a then, 55, 58-year-old man is slightly different in terms of what is an emergency to an 18-year-old young girl, isn't it? So to me, an emergency would be, I've lost my makeup bag, and so I need to replenish my makeup bag. I haven't got any spare cash, I'll have to use the emergency credit card. To him, an emergency was death, hospitalisation, an unwanted pregnancy. So to him, everything else could either be dealt with on my own, part of the learning experience, or I would just have to use my own money. So it really was an emergency, cancelled flights, health and safety. Death, it was death. If I died, then we could use the emergency credit card. So we sat down, we had this chat, and I was like, yeah, cool, whatever. Anyway, I'm going totally off piece, I'll get back to weddings. I went travelling and I didn't use it once for the first few legs of the trip, if you will. See, already I look better. Makeup, man. Bloody love it. And then I got to Fiji, and when I was in Fiji, I was staying with a group. It was like an organised group, not a cult, it sounds like a cult, of other people on their gap years, and we were all teaching different subjects in schools in Fiji, and in the mainland, and on the weekend we'd go to different islands. I lived a really hard life when I was 18. And every sentence, I know I sound like a twat, I'm sorry. Anyway, so on the first weekend, so I'm there and I'm living with, God, I don't know, maybe 12, 14 other 18, 19-year-olds. And you know that when I was younger, I was heavyset. I was very popular because I was funny, obviously, but I was funny because I was unattractive and overweight. You can't have it all. So I was already very nervous, very scared, very insecure. And we were going on our first weekend sort of excursion together as a group. And I had water poisoning because, ironically, in Fiji, where they have the prettiest of all water bottles, you can buy them in supermarkets here for like 10 quid. Out there, it's just their water bottle, so it's like £1. And they're so pretty, they got the ones with the flowers on. But anyway, so in Fiji, you don't drink the water. I can't even remember if the locals drink the water, but I drank the water, or I must have had my mouth open in the shower, as per usual. Can't bloody close the trap. Anyway, I got water poisoning. And if you've never had water poisoning, it's a bit like gastro. Essentially, things are coming out everywhere, every orifice. You're vomiting, you're shitting, it's a whole situation. It actually requires quite a lot of mental work. to navigate the situation. So we went to this island and I had water poisoning and I felt awful. It was coming out of me. To me, right, that was an emergency. But by the time we got to the island, I was slightly better, I'll admit. Anyway, I thought the accommodation options in a lot of these places is either like a 5-star hotel, because they're for like the honeymooners and the older travellers, or it's like youth hostels in a sand pit. And I decided, as we approached the first island, that given my medical state, it would be irresponsible for me to sleep in the dormitory with 50 other 18-year-olds, none of which I knew. That would be unkind, both to me and them. So what I thought was an emergency was to use the emergency credit card week 1 and pay for a private room on the seafront. And that's my story. So what happened was I had a lovely room, literally like a honeymooner as an 18-year-old. All my new friends from the group were coming to stay with me in my new suite rather than in the dormitory. And in the grand scheme of things, looking back, it wasn't extortionate money, but yeah, okay, emergency, maybe not, I don't know. I needed my own toilet, okay, Dad, all right? So that I've never forgotten it, because that led to a phone call, because obviously he set up a thing whereby he would get a notification every single time the card was used. So he wasn't very happy. To him, that was not an emergency. That was an extra. So that makes me think about the extras at weddings and what constitutes an extra and what constitutes a necessity, an essential, because everyone's going to have it different. I've said this before so many times. One of the things I find so fascinating about life, but about weddings in particular, is where people put their money and where people put their priorities. So to one person, you know, I'm sure I've said this to you before, when I used to work at the venue, we had 2 weddings back to back, and one wedding was a completely pay bar. So there was not a single drink that was paid for by the bride and groom. Unacceptable in my alcoholic state. But the dress was something like $5,000 and the flowers were like 3 or 4. So they had put so much of their budget into the extras, into the outfits and the florals, but nothing into the drink. Whereas I've been to weddings where it's a completely open bar, everything is paid for, all the food, all the drink, an abundance, and yet she got her dress from Oxfam, because to her she was like, well, I don't need to spend money on a dress, I'd rather everyone have a good time. So everyone's got their different priorities and everyone puts their budget in different places. And to some people, what is an extra is an essential. But for the sake of argument's sake, God, look at this foundation is really going on nicely. I put a primer on. Do I look orange? You can't really tell, can you? So for the sake of argument's sake in arguments, what I've looked at and what I've thought about for today's episode are the optional extras. So they might be essential to you, but to me, I'm like, really? Well, I will start by saying, and I'm going to change my mind throughout the whole of this episode, because I sort of think things out loud and then I go, oh, hang on, no, I would need that. No, that is essential. That's not an extra, that's essential. So I will change my mind. But what I find, what you must know, what I find about weddings is that I think overall, people can put a lot of emphasis on the extras, and I don't think it's necessary. I think it matters a lot on the couple, at the style of wedding, the vibe of wedding, and a lot on the guests. So I have had weddings where the couple themselves are quiet. They're quiet people, they don't drink a lot, they don't want to dance and party, they just want to chill. Absolutely brilliant. If that's what you're like day to day, then that's what your wedding should be like. And they have, quite often, couples like that will have perhaps a few more extras to entertain, to occupy their guests. Whereas I sort of think less is more, and I do tend to call it faff. And I'll tell you for why, because I think, generally speaking, at a wedding, everyone's adults. Although in all children wedding, would be amusing. Everyone's adults. You get a couple of drinks in you, some nice food, great atmosphere. Everyone should be happy to be there. Let them be. We're adults. We can converse. We don't need stimulation or constant entertainment. We're not toddlers. That's quite hard. Is that quite harsh? I don't know. Do you know what I mean, though? I just think, like, you don't need to put on a show. As long as there's structure and there's order to the day, if the drinks reception's an hour and a half, fine. We'll chat, we'll have a drink, we'll have a canapé. Do we need all the extras? This is it, you see, this is what I'm thinking. I want to know what you're thinking. So I kind of thought about this in different categories. So category number 1, decor. This is going to upset a lot of people because wedding stylists, that's the thing, that's a real thing these days. And one of my favourite people in the whole wedding industry, Kirsten Little Wedding Helper, is a wedding stylist. So her business is kind of reliant on people having the extras. So I don't want to talk badly of it because she's incredible and what she does is incredible and I love her. And I love all wedding stylists, Wedding Creations UK, I think they're brilliant, what they do is amazing. When it comes to decor, again, this whole conversation is, do I need it? Do I want it? Is it essential? Is it an extra? That's what you have to ask yourself. And I would almost go by making the list of everything, all the extras that you could possibly imagine, and there are a lot, and then whittling it down because you can't afford everything and it's, like I say, too much faff. When it comes to decor, do you need the neon sign that says welcome to James and Liv's wedding? By the way, I've gone off Chris Hemsworth a little bit and I'm now on to Jason Momoa, just FYI. So Jason and Liv's wedding, do you need the neon sign? What's that, like 100 quid? What are you going to do with it afterwards? You're going to put it in your house? That's sweet. Yeah, essential or extra, who knows. Tablescaping, is that an extra? To really put thought and meaning behind the way your tables look? I think that's essential. Others may see it as an extra. I think when it comes to decor, in terms of extras, I would say things like personalised napkins, embroidered napkins. And also, caveat, I'm not saying that extras are bad, they're gorgeous. A lot of them make it, but do you need them? Do you need a napkin with your name embroidered on it? I've been to a wedding as a guest and I had that. I'm not gonna lie, I still got it, so maybe I do. Maybe I'm contradicting myself already as we speak. One extra I personally really don't think that you need are wedding favours. That to me, a wedding favour defines an extra at a wedding. It's not essential. I would spend every Saturday and Sunday morning walking around the venue picking up the wedding favours that people have gone, oh, and just thrown away. If you have time and you enjoy baking heart-shaped cookies with your initials cut into them, then go to town. Don't spend 500 quid on little things like that because you think you need it, you don't need it. That is an extra. That is an extra. Things like scratch cards, again, that is an extra. Although personalised poems I love and personalised notes, but then that is an extra. That's the thing with the extras, you see, is a lot of it's very personalised touch, so it's kind of like, where do you draw the line? Stationery. A lot of people these days do wedding websites, or they do emails. Oh, my tea's cold, that's disgusting. Wedding websites, so to save on stationery. I don't know if that's a save the planet thing, or a save money thing, or they just can't be arsed thing. But I like stationery. So I would say that personalised stationery in terms of the invitations, essential, but in terms of on the day, extra. Do we need a menu on each place? I would say it's a lovely touch, totally unnecessary. But then I would say that a 3-piece invitation suite is essential. So Again, in terms of stationery, what do you need? Newspapers are a big thing now. Where am I at to? Blusher. It's a good thing I'm wearing a high neck because my face is a completely different colour to the rest of my body. Newspapers are a thing. Do we need to have a wedding newspaper? No. Is it a nice touch? Yes. It is quite a thing for people to look through to keep them busy. Again, if you've got room in the budget, I think it's nice. I tell you what, actually, if you're going to do a wedding newspaper or something like that, have it on the seats for the ceremony, because then it gives people something to look through whilst they wait. There's not really another time that they're going to be just sat there with nothing else to do. So I would say if you're going to do it, absolutely do it then, otherwise, no point. In terms of order of service, my ceremonies don't really have them because quite often, more often than not, we don't have hymns. So people don't need the words to something they're about to sing to, so we don't really have them. And I've told you before, when we do have them and they put a person officiating or celebrant or whatever, Olivia Coleman, then people get very excited and then equally very disappointed. So I apologise for that. So that's in terms of stationery. And then things like transport. Is that important? I think that depends on where you're going and how you're getting there and who's going to see you. I'm sure I've told you the story before. But when I worked at the venue, we had a groom, and generally speaking, one of the bridal party, the bride or the groom or the bride or whatever, one of them, if it's a heterosexual couple, traditionally the groom will show up first. And he'll come quite often earlier than even the guest, which I do recommend. I always say come at least an hour early. And so they will turn up and no one's there to see them. And this one time, this groom had hired, bless him, like a bright yellow Lamborghini, rocked up to the venue. Well, no buggers there, are they? So I've got like all the staff outside and we started clapping and we're like, hey! And then we took pictures because the photographer wasn't even there yet. That to me, Billy Big Balls, put your dick away, all right? No one's going to see you. No one cares. That's just you that's you playing out some childhood fantasy. And I've got no time for it, to be honest. But then again, you see, people make a living out of things like London red top buses, don't they? So if you're getting married in the city, I've actually done a wedding in Cheltenham and they had one. That was to bring the guests. So it was kind of, I would say, an essential to arrange transport because all the guests were in one hotel and they were going to the ceremony space and then back. So that's kind of essential. Could it just be a stagecoach? Do they need to go for a big party bus, open top, double decker? Probably not. But then, why not? But I think generally speaking, transport, just hop in a nice clean car. Just make sure the car runs and it's clean. I think that to me personally is an extra, not an essential. When it comes to cakes, I don't want to offend anyone. Do you need a cake? Because isn't that ridiculous? But to some people, you're like, oh, don't be so absurd, Olivia. Of course you need a bloody cake. It's a wedding. What is a wedding without a wedding cake? Which I get, but these days it's not that fashionable. Is the cake in itself an extra or an essential? And then if you decide, yeah, come on, we need a cake, Karen, chill out. Do you need a donut wall? Do you need a brownie station? Do you need bloody Mary Berry coming in with a bake-off array? Do you need it? Is that an extra or is that an essential? But evening food, essential. That soaks up the booze and it sort of is a little chapter of the evening that breaks up the dancing and the constant boozing. So I would say cake of some description, mildly essential. I'm not really that bothered by it, to be honest, personally. But all the extras that go along with it, I would say extra. See, I said it without even thinking. And again, canapes, I would say essential. You might say extra. I think they're essential, again, depending on timing. If you are having a 1 o'clock ceremony, let's say for half an hour, people will get there at midday. If you're serving a lot of booze during the drinks reception, if you're having your speeches before the dinner is served, that's hours between the time that they last ate. And if there is alcohol and they're drinking, they will be pissed. Your guests will be pissed by the time the meal that you paid a lot of money for is put down in front of them. So to me, in that situation, canapes, essential. You need to give them something to eat. If, however, your ceremony is at 2:30 and you're having a huge 3-course meal and there is drinks receptions an hour and that you're sitting down straight away to eat, speeches are later, maybe they're not essential. Maybe they're an extra. So I think a lot with the extras and the essential argument, I think a lot of it depends on the day itself, the running of the day and the timing of the day and things like that, which is why speaking to your wedding planner or, just listening to me really will help you work out what is essential and what is extra. Do we need a champagne tower? Yeah, we do. Some people are doing like margarita towers. Right, if you're not watching, I'm now going in to do my eyebrows. And what is it they have that saying that's like, eyebrows are sisters, not twins. Oh, shut up, Karen. But my face is like bloated and I need definition, so let's define the eyebrows. Do we need a champagne tower? Totally an extra. I mean, fun, but again, totally unnecessary. Do we need a very popular extra that maybe I did do it for my own wedding, I can't really remember, to be honest, but I actually think is a total extra but very thoughtful and doesn't cost you the earth, because I think that's what you need to think about when you're deciding on the extras to have on your wedding day, is it, how much is it going to cost, how much effort is it going to require, and how much impact is it going to have with my guests. So toilet boxes, as in those little boxes that they have in the guest toilets that have things like chewing gum, blister plasters, tampons, condoms. Depends what kind of wedding you're going to. God, look at those eyebrows. They are strong, aren't they? That to me, you go to B&M or whatever, and that could cost you less than a tenner, and you only need 2 of them. So yeah, maybe that's quite a fun thing to do, to put something together. Photo booths. I don't know. I can't comment on photo booths because I'll upset people. I'll be controversial on photo booths. One of the big extras in terms of category, like I said right at the beginning of this episode, I think that we're adults, leave us be, let us get on with it. But one thing that a lot of people put extra money, effort and thought into is the entertainment. Now again, God, that's a clumpy mascara. Is it risky? Again, I don't want to offend any of my industry friends because some of my most favourite people are in the entertainment industry. As in, they provide the entertainment for weddings. So I don't want to offend them, but is it essential? No. And I have to clarify again, I'm not saying that these people aren't talented or wonderful or that they don't offer things to weddings, because they absolutely do. It's just, are they essential? No, they're an extra. I would say that live music to some level is an essential. I have, of course, had weddings where they just have a playlist on an iPod, show made, on an iPod, iPod shuffle. And I just don't, and sometimes it's fine, and sometimes I just think, you just need a bit of live music. I love live music. So to me, live music is an essential, but do I need a wizard? Magician? Do I need some candy floss? Do I need animals? You can rent, you don't want to buy a llama, but you can rent a llama. You can rent petting zoos to come to your weddings. The amount of stuff that you can get as extras for your weddings is next level. Next level. Do I need that? No, I don't. I absolutely don't. Do you know what? I am going to offend people, but this I feel very strongly about. If you're getting married and you're not having children at the wedding, why on God's green earth are you paying for a petting zoo? If it's an adult-only affair and you're buying a petting zoo, that's a very different petting zoo, and it's not one that should be petted with during the day, you know? So don't. Do we need singing waiters? Again, they make me uncomfortable because I don't like street theatre. Ironically, given that I studied theatre. But they're fun, they're brilliant, God, they can sing. And if they do it well, it is amazing. But totally unnecessary. But again, caveat, some of the best things in life are unnecessary, aren't they? Is it necessary for me to finish the bottle of champagne? Of course it's not necessary, but I'm bloody going to. Do you need a live illustrator? You know that Aaron, the wedding illustrator, the live illustrator, he is one of my favourite people on planet Earth. He's incredible, and I think what he does is amazing, but I would not say it's essential, it's an extra. Do you need... Hello, let me just focus on my eyes for a minute. They've really lifted, haven't they? I look like I got sleep last night. Do we need a guest book? I didn't have one. I don't know many people that look at them. I think if you're going to do it in some sort of like large piece of paper that you can then just put in a frame and stick on the wall in your guest room. Do you need a quiz? Games? Table games? They're fun. Especially if you've got a lot of guests that don't know each other. If your wedding is a lot of people from different parts of your life, then that is quite good as a conversation starter. And again, you can whip that up yourself on a bit of Canva. Do you know what I mean? Like that could cost you £5. It might take a lot of time though. So quiz, games, things like that. What else? There's so much that you can do. Cocktail making, again, unnecessary. Just make it and I'll drink it. Controversial. Do we need a table to illustrate dead people? Let me define that. I would call it the deceased table. I'm laughing because I'm awkward. But quite often, actually, people at weddings will have a table with photos and candles of their family members and their friends that are no longer with us. I personally find that quite morbid. I think there are other ways of illustrating your affection for people that aren't there, and I do think that's important. I will often mention people who have passed in the ceremony, but do I think it's necessary to have a table like a shrine? I don't know. If that's what, of course, as with everything, if that's what you want to do, then that's what you should absolutely do. But is it going to stress you out? Are these extras going to stress you out? Because if they are, you don't need them. You don't need them. Do you need a poker table? No. You don't. You don't need a poker table. Do you want these things at your wedding because Pinterest told you should? Do you want these extras at your wedding because some tit on a podcast told you should have them? Or do you want them because actually they mean something to you? They're not going to stress you out. They're not going to cost you the earth, and you think it'll make your day. Then you must have them. Some people would say that I am an extra. I am extra, but am I an extra? Do you know what I mean? I mean, essentially, yeah, I am. Because all you need to get married is, legally anyway, is a registrar or a vicar. I think it's essential to have someone to do your ceremony, so maybe I am essential. Thank you very much. But am I an extra? Because you, generally speaking, all my couples get married legally as well. So is that the essential and I am the extra? I don't. What an existential crisis. So I think there is so much. There is so much that you can pay for a wedding, and I do think it really can get out of hand. God, look at these eyes. I went too heavy on my left eye, didn't I? Shit. Right, now I need to spray it and set it. Nowadays you can buy setting spray for your makeup. When I was a teenager, I just used hairspray. I still do sometimes, but then you struggle to open your eyes because your eyelashes are hairsprayed together. Anyway, off topic. So before I finish, there's so many things that you can get, and like I say, I think you have to sit down and go, right, do I need it? Do I want it? But as with life, don't just do something because it's keeping up with the Joneses. Don't do something because someone else told you to do it. It needs to mean something to you. It needs to be important to you. It needs to add to your day, not take away. And like I said right at the start, just trust that your guests can have a good time without a petting zoo. You're there because you're getting married to the person you love in front of people that you love. And everyone's there to celebrate you. The extras are brilliant. They're fantastic. They add to it, of course. But you don't need them, Karen. You don't need them. Decide what you need. Then look at the budget. Define an emergency credit card and what its purpose is. Then you can book some extras for your wedding day. So, this week's RSVP, I got a message from the gorgeous Debbie. Assume she's gorgeous. I assume all my listeners are gorgeous. And she says, "Hi Liv, love the podcast." Do you know what I love? When people who don't know me call me Liv rather than Olivia. You can call me whatever you want to, Debbie. Any of you listeners, you call me whatever you want. "Hi Liv, love the podcast and also love that you're pregnant, as I am too." Ah, Debbie! It's hell on earth. She writes, "We're 12 weeks in, we're engaged, and now I'm thinking about the wedding date. What do you think? Should we go ahead and get married as planned or postpone?" Ah, okay. Okay, so she's put, basically, it's long-winded. Debbie likes to chat, so I won't go. Basically, what she's saying is she's either going to get married as planned, but she's going to be 7 months pregnant, or they postpone and they do it in like a year's time when she's had the baby and she feels better and she can have a few drinks. Tricky one, Debbie. Tricky one. What I will say, you do whatever you want to do, babe. Sod everyone else. I mean, look into the logistics. Have you booked everything? Because if you've booked everything and you paid for everything and your supply, it's going to be an absolute bloody nightmare to postpone and move everything, then maybe not. Maybe just carry on. And also, you know, I'm no doctor, but I feel like at 7 months you can have a couple of fizz to celebrate. You know, drop in the ocean, Debbie, drop in the ocean. Don't cancel me, please. So I think look at it logistically. But also you do have to take into account how you're going to feel. And it's not just about drinking alcohol. It's about having your baby there in the photos. It's about feeling relaxed. Speaking as the person who is heavily pregnant, it's not fun the last couple of months. None of it I enjoy, to be honest. Some people glow and they blossom and they thrive. I'm not one of those people. You might be, Debbie. You might be bloody Mother Earth. Kudos to you. But if you are, I find it very uncomfortable. Physically, I find it draining emotionally. This has now become a therapy session for me. If you are struggling with it, if you don't feel good, that is important to take into account because you want to feel your best on your wedding day. So I would say sit down with your partner, talk to them about it, look at the logistics, the technicalities and the cost of postponing it, and then kind of take into account your emotional and your mental feelings about it, but also weigh up your options. I'm intrigued by this one. Let me know what you do. Love ya.
Thank you so much for listening. It really does mean the world. If you find this podcast even remotely helpful or moderately entertaining, share with all your friends and family. You can DM me any questions, queries, if you want to share any stories on the podcast Instagram at I'll Marry You Podcast. Get in touch. I want to hear all your tall tales. See you soon.
I'll Marry You is a podcast by Olivia Coleman. The music is Mr. Sunnyface by Wayne Jones, and the show is produced and edited by Drew Toynbee.